I just filmed myself doing something that 97% of Americans think could land me in jail. The cops who saw it, they actually thanked me. What you're about to discover will make you question everything you've been told about what's against the law in this country. 1. Police officers can't just walk up and demand your ID because they feel like it. You need to be suspected of committing a specific crime first. Just strolling down the sidewalk doesn't require carrying identification, despite what some overzealous officers might suggest. Refusing to show ID isn't automatically illegal either. Only certain states have stop and identify laws, and even then, reasonable suspicion must exist. 2. Recording police officers performing their duties in public spaces is completely legal nationwide. No federal law prohibits filming police activities, though some secret recording laws vary by state when it comes to audio. Officers might order you to step back for safety reasons, which is reasonable, but here's the key distinction. Obstructing their work is different from simply filming. Keep your distance, don't interfere, and you're protected. 3. Accidentally knocking over a jar of pickles doesn't make you a criminal. Honest mistakes happen, and stores may ask for payment, but they can't force you to buy damaged goods. Civil liability operates differently than criminal guilt. Store policies vary wildly on broken merchandise. Breaking something by accident isn't shoplifting. The intent matters more than the outcome when determining if a crime occurred. 4. The Fifth Amendment protects your right to remain silent during police encounters. Officers can't arrest you simply for refusing to answer their questions. You're allowed to ask if you're free to go at any time. Staying quiet isn't evidence of guilt, despite what movies suggest. Be polite but firm when exercising these constitutional rights. Silence can't be used against you in court later. 5. Wearing hoodies in public spaces is perfectly legal everywhere in America. No law makes this common clothing item illegal to wear. Dress codes apply in schools or private businesses, not on public sidewalks. Some places have loitering laws, but those are unrelated to your choice of outerwear. Suspicion isn't the same as breaking the law. Your clothing choices don't magically transform legal activities into criminal ones. 6. Open carry laws vary dramatically across different states, creating a patchwork of regulations. Many U.S. states allow openly carrying firearms without special permits. Some require permits, others don't have any requirements at all. Laws often differ between rifles and handguns, too. Concealed carry rules are typically much stricter than open carry. Displaying firearms isn't automatically a crime, but location and local laws matter significantly. 7. Dropping F-bombs in public usually won't land you in handcuffs. Profanity isn't a criminal offense in most American jurisdictions. Disturbing the peace requires more than creative cursing. Exceptions exist for direct threats or harassment directed at specific individuals. Context matters enormously here. Schools may have policies about language, and some states still have outdated profanity laws on the books that rarely get enforced. 8. You can legally sleep in your car in most places across America. The confusion comes from local parking ordinances, not laws about sleeping itself. Rest stops actually encourage short naps for driver safety. Problems only arise when you're trespassing on private property or sleeping while intoxicated. Many cities even run safe parking programs specifically for people who need to sleep in vehicles overnight. 9. Cashiers might seem pushy about receipts, but you're never required to take one. Declining doesn't make you suspicious or guilty of anything. Those exit checkers at big stores, their bag inspections are completely voluntary unless you're actually suspected of theft. Only police officers can physically detain someone for suspected shoplifting. Store employees asking to see your receipt have zero legal authority to force compliance. 10. The idea that collecting rainwater is illegal became an internet myth that won't die. Most states actually encourage rainwater harvesting for gardens and conservation. A few Western states had the old water rights laws that created confusion, but these rarely applied to typical homeowners. You can set up rain barrels without worrying about water police showing up. Just check local building codes before installing massive collection systems. 11. Jaywalking enforcement varies wildly depending on where you live. Many cops issue warnings rather than tickets for casual street crossing. The real legal trouble comes when jaywalking contributes to accidents or creates traffic hazards. Small towns might never ticket anyone for mid-block crossing, while busy cities crack down harder. State laws differ dramatically, so what's fine in one place might get you fined elsewhere. 12. Throwing your kid a birthday party at home doesn't require any permits or government approval. Your house isn't a public venue subject to event regulations. The confusion happens when people plan massive gatherings with vendors, bouncy houses, or block parties that spill into streets. Even then, most cities care more about noise complaints than advance permission. Zoning rules target businesses not celebrating another year around the sun. 13. Every driving instructor has heard this myth, but no American state bans barefoot driving. Traffic laws focus on your ability to operate pedals safely, not your footwear choices. Flip-flops and high heels actually pose more driving risks than bare feet. Insurance companies might scrutinize barefoot driving after accidents, but that's liability assessment, not legal violation. Comfortable driving matters more than following imaginary shoe requirements. 14. Using your phone for GPS navigation is legal in most states as long as you're not holding it while driving. Mount the device on your dashboard or let passengers handle directions freely. The restrictions target texting and calling, not following map directions to avoid getting lost. Hands-free operation keeps you within legal boundaries. Local distracted driving laws vary significantly, so research your area's specific rules about phone interaction while driving. 15. Most people believe hanging fuzzy dice or air fresheners from their rearview mirror will get them a ticket. The reality is far different. No federal law exists that makes those little ornaments illegal. Sure, some states have obstructed view laws on the books, but enforcement is wildly inconsistent. Police officers usually have bigger fish to fry than your graduation tassel. The key word here is excessive. One small air freshener hanging peacefully, you're probably fine. A collection of beads, crosses, and toy cars creating a mobile art installation, that might catch an officer's attention during a traffic stop for something else entirely. 16. Your dog doesn't need to ride in a crate every time you drive to the vet. Despite what some pet owners believe, no federal law demands you cage your furry passenger. A few states require pet seatbelts or restraints, but most places treat this as a safety suggestion rather than a legal requirement. The real issue isn't breaking the law, it's distraction. An unrestrained golden retriever jumping into your lap during a left turn creates obvious problems. Police might write you a ticket for reckless driving if your loose pet causes an accident. Animal cruelty laws focus on harm and neglect, not whether Fluffy sits in the back seat freely. 17. Sneaking candy into movie theaters breaks company rules, not criminal law. Theater staff can ask you to leave if they catch you with outside snacks, but they're calling security, not the police. The worst-case scenario involves getting escorted out and potentially banned from returning. No prosecutor in America is filing charges because you brought M&Ms in your purse. Theaters make most of their profit from concessions, so they aggressively enforce these policies. But violating a business rule doesn't equal committing a crime. The distinction matters. You might lose your movie night, but you won't lose your clean record over contraband popcorn. 18. Nunchucks occupy a weird legal gray area that varies dramatically by state. Some places banned them outright during the 1970s martial arts movie craze, while others never bothered with restrictions. The laws are slowly changing as legislators realize these weapons aren't causing crime waves. Making your own nunchucks at home often falls into the same legal category as buying manufactured ones. Intent becomes crucial here. Carrying them to practice martial arts differs significantly from brandishing them threateningly at someone. Check your local regulations before ordering a pair online, because what's legal in Nevada might get you arrested in New York. 19. Flashing your headlights to warn other drivers about speed traps sits in constitutional territory. Most states don't have specific laws banning headlight communication between drivers. Some officers write tickets for improper use of headlights, but courts often overturn these citations on free speech grounds. The practice has been around since cars had headlights, and trying to regulate it opens complicated legal questions. Warning fellow drivers about police presence isn't illegal in most places. Just remember that your helpfulness might annoy the officer running the speed trap. Double-check your local traffic codes because a few jurisdictions do have specific prohibitions against headlight signaling. 20. Spitting on sidewalks is generally legal, though definitely gross. Most cities don't have officers patrolling for public spitters, despite what your grandmother might have told you. Some places do issue minor fines under public health ordinances, but prosecution remains rare unless you're repeatedly hawking loogies in front of the same business. The pandemic increased attention to spitting in public, with some temporary rules appearing in various cities. But for the most part, this falls under basic courtesy rather than law enforcement. You won't get arrested for clearing your throat onto concrete. Social judgment, however, is a different story entirely. 21. Sharing your Netflix password with your spouse and kids isn't going to land you in federal prison. The company's terms of service prohibit sharing outside your household, but violating a private company's rules doesn't automatically create criminal liability. Netflix focuses its enforcement efforts on commercial password selling operations, not families watching movies together. Some states have anti-piracy statutes that could theoretically apply to large-scale password trafficking, but prosecutors target people making money from stolen credentials. Using your account to let your college-age daughter watch shows in her dorm room remains realistically safe from legal consequences. 22. Browsing is not a crime, even if you read the whole issue cover to cover. Staff may ask you to leave if you're loitering for hours, but that's store policy, not criminal law. It only becomes trespassing if you refuse to leave when asked. Damaging books is different from reading them. Libraries encourage reading without buying, so why should bookstores be any different? 23. No law bans pajamas in public spaces. Dress codes apply in some private businesses or schools, but walking down the street in your fuzzy slippers won't get you arrested. Social norms, not legal rules, drive most reactions you'll get. Police don't ticket for sleepwear choices. Schools may ban pajamas for students during class hours, but that's an institutional policy. 24. Parents decide supervision age for their own property. No federal law bans outdoor play in your backyard. Child neglect laws focus on actual danger, not kids climbing trees or playing tag. Neighborhood Watch may report concerns, but police rarely act unless there's real harm. Social pressure from other parents drives most conflicts, not legal requirements. 25. Using fake names online isn't a crime unless you're committing fraud or defamation. Social media sites set their own rules about real names. Catfishing for fun isn't prosecuted under most laws, but impersonating real people crosses the line into identity theft territory. Protect your privacy with usernames, but don't misuse other people's identities for harmful purposes. 26. No law bans bringing your own food to most public parks. Picnic areas are specifically intended for outside meals and family gatherings. Special event permits may restrict food vending, but your sandwich is fine. Alcohol faces tighter regulations than snacks. Park rangers focus on trash cleanup and fire safety, not whether you packed your own lunch. 27. Most cities allow skating unless signs are posted otherwise. Private businesses can forbid boards on their property for insurance reasons. Safety gear may be required in official skate parks. Skateboarding is recreation, not a criminal act that gets you arrested. Local nuisance laws can apply to loud tricks late at night, but rolling down the sidewalk is typically fine. 28. No ban exists on growing common kitchen herbs in your backyard. Some cities restrict plant height or pesticide use for neighborhood aesthetics. Large, unkempt gardens may violate property maintenance codes. Illegal plants are obvious exceptions, like marijuana in restrictive states. Your homegrown basil, oregano, and thyme are perfectly legal additions to any home garden or cooking routine. 29. Most people assume dancing in public is somehow restricted or requires permission. Wrong. There's no broad ban on dancing outside in America. You can break into spontaneous moves in most public parks without worrying about legal consequences. Some businesses might restrict dancing inside their premises for liability reasons, but that's their choice, not the law. Flash mobs are perfectly legal too, as long as they don't block traffic or create dangerous situations. Police officers care about safety and public order, not whether you're doing the cha-cha on the sidewalk. 30. Pepper spray is legal for self-defense in all 50 states. That's right, every single one. However, some states do have specific rules about size limits or age restrictions you should know about. You absolutely cannot use pepper spray offensively or just for fun, though. Many college campuses have their own bans for students, which creates confusion. Then, there's the shipping issue. Some states restrict how pepper spray can be mailed or transported, making online purchases tricky in certain areas. 31. Planning a trip and want to buy lottery tickets in another state? Go for it. There's nothing illegal about purchasing tickets to take home with you. The confusion comes from online ticket purchases, where some states require you to be physically present within state borders. Minors still can't buy tickets anywhere, obviously. The key rule is simple. You can only redeem winning tickets in the state where you bought them. Crossing state lines with lottery tickets in your pocket isn't a crime. 32. Walking with headphones is completely legal in most places across the country. Cyclists face slightly different rules, though. Some states restrict cyclists from wearing both earbuds simultaneously, arguing it creates safety hazards. The main concern isn't legal, but practical. Loud music that prevents you from hearing traffic warnings could potentially lead to distraction penalties if it contributes to an accident. But there's no specific nationwide ban on pedestrians wearing headphones while walking down the street. 33. Swapping seats while your car is stopped isn't actually illegal. The danger comes when people attempt this while the vehicle is moving. Legal penalties typically involve reckless driving charges, not the seat swapping itself. During traffic jams or at red lights, you're technically allowed to switch positions. Always remember to stay buckled, though, and child car seats must always follow proper age and safety laws. The safest approach is obviously to pull over completely before making any passenger changes. 34. Homeowners can absolutely rent out their driveways without needing special permits in most areas. Your driveway is private property, and you control who parks there. Some cities might have regulations related to taxes or zoning requirements for regular commercial activity. Federal law doesn't ban private parking rentals at all. Long-term rental arrangements might need local approval in certain neighborhoods. Platforms like JustPark have made driveway rentals much easier and more mainstream than ever before. 35. Mailing homemade cookies to friends is perfectly legal when packaged properly. The Postal Service has guidelines, not laws, governing how you ship baked goods. Perishable items do require extra care and appropriate packaging to arrive safely. International shipping has different restrictions, but domestic cookie shipments are routine. The USPS deals with countless food packages daily without legal issues. Shipping alcohol or tobacco products faces much stricter regulations, but your grandmother's chocolate chip cookies are absolutely fine to mail. 36. Many cities across America actually welcome backyard chickens with open arms. Your neighbors might raise eyebrows, but the law usually doesn't. Most urban areas allow hens as long as you follow basic rules about coop cleanliness and distance from property lines. The real enemy? Roosters. Their 5 a.m. wake-up calls get them banned in nearly every residential zone for noise violations. 37. That free airport Wi-Fi isn't a trap waiting to arrest you. Public networks exist for browsing, checking email, and killing time during layovers. The crime happens when you hack into systems or steal other people's data. Those terms of service nobody reads. They're store policies, not federal law. Your biggest risk is identity theft from hackers, not handcuffs from using someone else's internet connection. 38. Your grandmother's knitting hobby could technically be a business, but nobody's calling the tax police. Selling crafts at weekend fairs or online platforms like Etsy is perfectly legal for most people. The government only cares when you're making serious money regularly. Then, you might need to collect sales tax or get permits. But that ceramic mug you glazed last Tuesday? Sell away without fear. 39. Over 20 states actually allow you to take home roadkill if you follow their reporting rules. Montana, Alaska, and Wyoming treat it like free-range grocery shopping with paperwork. You usually need to call wildlife officials within hours and get a permit. The weird part, you can't sell the meat, but you can definitely eat that deer that jumped into your headlights last week. Road pizza, anyone? 40. Real police officers must identify themselves when asked, but you're smart to be cautious about unmarked cars. You can legally drive to the nearest police station or well-lit public area before pulling over. Call 911 to verify if the stop is legitimate. Fake cops are rare, but dangerous. Most departments understand why citizens want to see badges and marked vehicles before rolling down windows in dark parking lots. 41. American parents have almost total freedom when naming their babies. Only a handful of states ban obscenities, numbers, or symbols that might confuse government databases. You could legally name your child hashtag, Batman, or even Facebook if you wanted. The judge won't stop you unless the name could cause serious harm to the kid later. Social pressure beats legal pressure every time in the baby naming game. 42. Those plastic grocery bags stuffed under your kitchen sink aren't contraband. Reusing them as trash can liners, dog waste bags, or storage containers is completely legal everywhere. The environmental bans target new bag production and store distribution, not what you do with existing bags at home. Some stores won't let you bring old bags back for hygiene reasons, but that's policy, not law. Reduce, reuse, recycle, guilt-free. 43. Most people assume you need permission to sit on a curb, but that's completely wrong. Curbs are public space. You can sit there while waiting for your Uber, catching your breath, or just taking a break. Police might ask you to move if you're blocking traffic or creating a safety hazard, but sitting itself isn't illegal. The worst that happens? Someone thinks you're loitering, but loitering requires causing an actual disturbance. 44, and here's something dog owners get confused about all the time. Off-leash dogs aren't automatically breaking the law. Many parks have designated off-leash areas where your dog can run free legally. The key word here is designated. Regular sidewalks and most public spaces require leashes, but dog parks specifically welcome unleashed pets. Always check the signs before you unclip that leash. Your golden retriever isn't a criminal, but ignoring posted rules might get you a ticket. 45. You walk into a store, really need the bathroom, but haven't bought anything yet. Can they kick you out? Well, yes, but using their bathroom isn't theft or trespassing. Stores set their own bathroom policies as private businesses. Some require purchase codes, others don't care at all. The important thing is this: if they ask you to leave and you refuse, then it becomes trespassing. Until then, nature calls aren't criminal offenses. 46. Sports fans lose their minds, and that includes their language. Good news: cursing at the game isn't automatically illegal. Stadiums deal with passionate fans every day, and they expect some colorful vocabulary. Security might eject you for being too disruptive, but police won't arrest you just for dropping F-bombs when the ref makes a terrible call. Disorderly conduct requires much more than creative swearing. Most venues understand that sports bring out people's emotions. 47. Street musicians add life to cities, and most places welcome them. You don't always need a permit to play guitar on the corner or sing for tips. Cities usually focus on whether you're blocking pedestrian traffic, not whether your performance has proper paperwork. Large setups with amplifiers might need permits, but a simple acoustic guitar, that's just public art. Police care more about crowd control than chord progressions. Tipping street performers is perfectly legal too. 48. Parks exist for public relaxation, which includes sitting all day if you want. There's no law saying you can only stay for 30 minutes or an hour. As long as the park is open and you're not bothering anyone, you can read, nap, or just enjoy nature for hours. Being homeless doesn't make park use illegal either. The only real restriction is closing time. When parks close, everyone has to leave, regardless of housing status. 49. Photography in public spaces is generally protected as free expression. You can take pictures of buildings, crowds, street scenes, and yes, even people who happen to be in public. Private property has different rules, and commercial photo shoots might need permits, but casual photography with your phone or camera is perfectly legal. The confusion comes from security guards who don't understand the law. They can ask you to stop, but they can't arrest you for taking pictures in public areas. 50. Refusing to shake hands might feel awkward, but it won't land you in jail. There's absolutely no law requiring physical greetings. Some people have religious reasons. Others worry about germs. After 2020, many folks stopped shaking hands entirely. Your job might have protocols about professional greetings, but those are workplace rules, not criminal law. Social consequences? Sure. Legal trouble? 0. 51. Skipping the tip at dinner makes you unpopular, not a criminal. Tipping is completely optional under U.S. law. Some fancy restaurants automatically add service charges, which is different. Other countries actually discourage tipping entirely. American waitstaff rely heavily on tips for their income, so stiffing them hurts their paycheck. But the police won't arrest you for being cheap. Bad service next time? That's another story. 52. Cleaning out your bookshelf with a yard sale is perfectly legal. You own those books, you can sell them. Copyright law doesn't prevent reselling used items you purchased legitimately. Only huge book-selling operations might need business permits. Most neighborhoods welcome weekend rummage sales. The key is honesty about condition. That water-damaged novel should be priced accordingly. No federal agent will raid your driveway book table. 53. Wearing sunglasses inside buildings isn't against any law. Fashion police don't actually exist. Some casinos might ask you to remove them for security reasons. Movie theaters worry about piracy, so they could request removal during films. But walking through the mall or grocery store with shades on? Totally fine. People might think you're trying too hard to look cool. That's their problem, not yours. 54. Service dogs have incredible legal protections that most people don't understand. Federal law allows them almost anywhere their handler goes. Stores, restaurants, airplanes. Staff cannot demand paperwork on the spot. They can only ask what task the dog performs. Emotional support animals have different, much stricter rules. Airlines especially distinguish between the two. Faking a service animal is difficult to prove and rarely prosecuted. But actual service dogs, they're golden. 55. Those wheelie shoes from the early 2000s aren't banned by any federal law. Heelys and similar skate shoes are just footwear. Mall security might ask you to stop rolling for safety reasons. That's about liability, not legality. Wearing the shoes is fine. Using the wheels might get you asked to leave private property. Regular skateboards face much stricter rules than shoes with tiny wheels embedded in them. 56. Walking around with a thick stack of cash isn't illegal. No law limits how much money you can carry in your wallet or purse. Banks report large deposits over $10,000, but that's about transactions, not possession. Police might ask questions if they suspect something fishy. International travelers must declare amounts over $10,000 at customs. Otherwise, having cash is just having cash. Perfectly legal, even if it looks suspicious to some people. 57. Nobody gets a ticket for laughing too hard at a comedy show. The law doesn't have a volume limit on your joy. Sure, if you're screaming uncontrollably in a library at 2 a.m., someone might ask you to tone it down, but that's about disturbing the peace, not the laughter itself. Movie theaters occasionally shush overly enthusiastic audiences, and teachers definitely prefer quieter classrooms. However, your right to express happiness through laughter remains completely protected. Genuine joy isn't a criminal offense anywhere in America. 58. That Spider-Man costume from last Halloween, you can wear it to the grocery store in July without breaking any laws. Banks and airports might ask you to remove masks for security reasons, which makes perfect sense. A few cities have old anti-mask laws on the books, but they're rarely enforced for harmless costumes. Large parades might need permits, but that's for crowd control, not costume policing. The weird part is how many people think dressing up outside October is somehow illegal when it's actually just socially unexpected. 59. Your driveway, your rules when it comes to fixing your car. No federal law stops you from changing your own oil or swapping brake pads at home. Local noise ordinances might kick in if you're using power tools at midnight, and chemical disposal has its own environmental rules. Professional auto shops face much stricter regulations than weekend warriors. But working on your personal vehicle in your own space? Completely legal. Just don't expect your neighbors to appreciate the 3 a.m. engine revving sessions. 60. Grilling burgers in your front yard instead of the backyard isn't a criminal act. Fire codes in some cities restrict open flames near structures or property lines, which is about safety, not location preferences. Apartment dwellers often face stricter balcony barbecue rules from their landlords. Then there are those homeowners associations that try to dictate when and where you can fire up the grill. But no federal law cares whether your barbecue smoke wafts toward the street or toward your neighbor's garden. 61. Wearing a bikini while sunbathing in the park is perfectly legal in most places. Parks don't typically have dress codes like private businesses might. Nudity crosses a different line entirely, but swimwear, that's just clothing designed for sun exposure. Some people find it unusual to see beachwear away from actual beaches, but unusual doesn't mean unlawful. The only real restriction comes from social expectations, not legal requirements. Public spaces generally welcome anyone dressed appropriately for their outdoor activities, including getting some vitamin D. 62. Cranking up your stereo inside your house with all windows closed doesn't automatically break any laws. Noise ordinances only kick in when neighbors actually complain about ongoing disturbances. Time of day definitely matters. What's acceptable at 3 p.m. might not fly at 3 a.m. Police typically focus on extreme cases where the noise becomes a genuine community problem. Double-pane windows and good insulation help keep the peace with neighbors. Well, your musical taste might be questionable, but your right to enjoy it at home stays protected. 63. Your grass can grow a little shaggy without landing you in jail. Criminal law doesn't cover lawn maintenance. That's strictly civil territory. Some cities set maximum height limits and issue fines for severely overgrown yards, but you won't get arrested for it. Wildflower gardens usually get exempted from these rules anyway. Homeowners associations are often the real lawn police, not actual police. The worst consequence is typically a citation and maybe a city crew that cuts your grass and bills you for it. 64. No shoe, no problem. Despite what those old restaurant signs suggest, there's actually no law requiring footwear in most stores. Health departments focus their regulations on employees handling food, not customers walking around. Store owners can set their own policies about bare feet, but that's a business decision, not a criminal matter. You might get some strange looks browsing the cereal aisle barefoot, but the police won't arrest you for it. 65. Sports rivalries don't require legal boundaries. Chatting with fans from the opposing team isn't against any law, even if your buddies think you're crazy. Stadium security might step in if things get heated, but friendly banter across team lines falls under free speech. The worst consequence? Getting ejected from the venue? Throwing punches changes everything, but wearing the wrong jersey and making friends with enemy fans? Perfectly legal, just maybe not popular with your crew. 66. Reading an entire magazine while grocery shopping won't land you in handcuffs. Stores expect some browsing, and finishing that article before checkout doesn't constitute theft. Staff might ask you to move if you're blocking the aisle, but that's about traffic flow, not criminal activity. Some people finish whole books in bookstores without buying them. It's not the most polite behavior, but it's not illegal either. Just don't damage the merchandise. 67. Recording your own workplace conversations gets tricky depending on your state. One-party consent states let you record any conversation you're part of without telling others. Two-party consent states require everyone to agree first. The key word here is your own conversations. You can't secretly record private talks between coworkers, but documenting your own meetings for notes or protection? That's often completely legal. Check your state's wiretapping laws before hitting record, though. 68. Owning a pet hedgehog or ferret doesn't make you a criminal mastermind. Many exotic pets are perfectly legal when obtained through proper channels. Rules vary wildly by state and city, with some places banning ferrets while others welcome them. The illegal part comes from smuggling animals or capturing wild ones. Legitimate exotic pet ownership often requires permits and proper housing, but it's definitely not criminal activity in most areas. 69. Cheering for the visiting team at a home game might earn you dirty looks, but it won't earn you a criminal record. No law controls which team you support, even in enemy territory. Stadium policies might remove fans who start fights, but wearing the wrong colors and celebrating opposing touchdowns falls under free speech. Security focuses on violence prevention, not team loyalty enforcement. Your friends might question your judgment, but the law won't. 70. Babysitting the neighbor's kids doesn't require a government license for occasional care. Regulations kick in when you're running a formal daycare business with multiple families and regular schedules. Informal childcare among friends, family, or neighbors operates under different rules. Teen babysitters have been watching kids for decades without special permits. The line gets drawn at commercial operations, not helping out your buddy by watching their toddler for an evening or weekend. 71. Playing music at home isn't against the law. Your garage band can practice without fear of criminal charges. But here's the thing. Noise complaints are real. Neighbors can absolutely call the police if your drum solos are shaking their windows at midnight. Most cities have noise ordinances that kick in after certain hours, usually around 10 p.m. The cops won't arrest you for playing Stairway to Heaven badly, but they might ask you to turn it down. 72. Flying kites in the park is perfectly legal. There's no federal kite police coming to confiscate your Rainbow Diamond Flyer. The only real restrictions happen near airports or power lines, where your innocent Sunday afternoon hobby could actually interfere with aircraft or cause power outages. Parks actively encourage family kite flying days. Weather poses more danger than any law enforcement officer ever will. The biggest legal risk? maybe tangling someone else's kite and causing a playground argument. 73. Handing out free stuff on the street doesn't require a permit or police notification. You can give away stickers, samples, or homemade cookies without breaking any laws. Business sales are different. Those need permits. Food giveaways might require food safety certification in some places, but that's more about health codes than criminal activity. Panhandling involves asking for money, which has different rules. Most street fairs actually encourage vendors to offer free samples to draw crowds and build community engagement. 74. Wearing all black at night isn't a criminal offense. Your fashion choices can't land you in jail, even if they make you look mysteriously dramatic. Police might question you during investigations if you match a suspect description, but the clothing itself isn't illegal. Halloween costumes, cosplay, or just personal style preferences are all protected. What attracts police attention is suspicious behavior, not your color coordination. Reflective gear is definitely safer for nighttime walking, but nobody's requiring it by law. 75. Moving out before your lease ends isn't a crime that gets you arrested. Breaking a lease is a civil matter, not criminal. Your landlord can charge fees, demand remaining rent, or take you to small claims court. Written notice requirements exist in most states, but violating them won't result in handcuffs. The worst legal consequence is usually financial, losing your security deposit or paying additional months of rent. Landlords can't change locks until you actually vacate the premises. 76. Changing your hair color frequently doesn't violate any federal, state, or local laws. You can dye it blue Monday and green Thursday without legal consequences. Most schools have appearance rules in their student handbooks, but these aren't criminal statutes. Some workplaces set dress code standards that might restrict unconventional colors. Public spaces don't regulate hair color at all. Health codes apply to salons performing the dyeing, focusing on chemical safety and licensing, not the rainbow results on your head. 77. Selling lemonade on your lawn typically doesn't require permits or business licenses. Many states recently passed specific laws protecting children's lemonade stands from bureaucratic interference. Temporary stands operated by kids are usually tolerated by local authorities. Large commercial operations selling significant volumes need city approval and proper permits. The lemonade stand has become such an American symbol that politicians actively campaign on protecting them. Most police officers would rather buy a cup than write citations to entrepreneurial children. 78. Most subway riders keep their heads down, stare at phones, or pretend everyone else is invisible. But what if you actually smiled at someone? Turns out there's absolutely no law against being friendly on public transportation. Sure, you might get some weird looks in cities like New York where eye contact feels like a foreign concept. Social behaviors differ wildly depending on where you live. Making conversation with strangers is completely legal, even if it makes people uncomfortable. 79. Your medicine cabinet probably looks like a pharmacy graveyard. Old antibiotics from 2019, pain pills that expired last year, cough syrup from who knows when. Here's something most people don't realize. Keeping expired medication at home isn't illegal. No law requires you to toss out old prescriptions the second they hit their expiration date. Only selling or sharing those medications with others crosses into criminal territory. Pharmacies offer disposal programs, but it's your choice to participate. 80. College dorms used to separate men and women like they carried contagious diseases. Even today, some people assume mixed-gender living arrangements must violate some ancient law. They're wrong. No federal or state law bans opposite-sex roommates from sharing an apartment, house, or living space. Lease agreements might have occupancy limits, but gender isn't the issue there. Most landlords couldn't care less about your roommate's biological sex as long as rent gets paid on time. 81. Walk into any grocery store wearing a political campaign shirt and watch people's reactions. Some act like you're breaking federal law by supporting a candidate while buying cereal. Political speech enjoys strong First Amendment protection, especially in private businesses open to the public. Store employees might need to stay neutral per company policy, but customers can wear whatever political message they want. The only restriction? Your shirt can't incite violence or create genuine safety concerns. 82. Empty lots and unused spaces dot every neighborhood, just waiting for someone with vision. Starting a community garden isn't some bureaucratic nightmare requiring years of permits and red tape. Most cities actually encourage these projects because they improve neighborhoods and reduce crime. You'll need the landowner's permission, obviously, since trespassing laws still apply, but growing vegetables together, that's legal everywhere. Some cities even sponsor gardening programs to help residents get started with seeds and tools. 83. Beach naps hit different than regular sleep. Something about the sun, sand, and ocean breeze makes you drowsy in the best way possible. Daytime napping on public beaches is perfectly legal in most places. Lifeguards might wake you up if they're concerned about sunburn or safety, but you won't get arrested for catching some Z's. Overnight camping tells a different story entirely. Most beaches ban sleeping there after dark without special permits, treating night sleeping as a completely separate issue. 84. Kids chase soap bubbles like they're made of pure magic. Adults secretly love them too, even if they won't admit it. Playing with bubbles in public parks is completely legal and surprisingly common. No permits required, no age restrictions, no licensing needed for bubble-making equipment. Some playgrounds might ban sticky toys that create cleanup nightmares, but regular soap bubbles get a free pass everywhere. The only real rule? Don't litter the park with empty bubble bottles when you're done. 85. Free speech includes handing out flyers on public property. You don't need permits for small-scale leafleting in most places. However, businesses can absolutely kick you out for soliciting on their private property. The trick is knowing where public space ends and private begins. City permits only become necessary when you're running large organized campaigns or blocking foot traffic. Most cops won't bother with peaceful flyer distribution unless someone complains about harassment. 86. Your sock choices won't land you in jail, even at school. Dress codes exist, but they're policies, not criminal laws. Teachers might send you to the principal's office for violating uniform rules, but police aren't getting involved over mismatched footwear. The worst consequence? Maybe detention or a phone call home. Schools focus on education, not fashion enforcement. Even the strictest institutions rarely waste time policing sock colors when there are bigger issues to handle. 87. Metal detecting is perfectly legal in most public parks across America. You'll need permission for historical sites or protected areas, but your average city park welcomes treasure hunters. The catch? Digging might be restricted to protect landscaping and sprinkler systems. Any buried items you find typically belong to the city or park district, not you. Always check local rules before you start searching. Private property requires landowner permission, obviously, unless you want trespassing charges. 88. Despite urban legends, chewing gum remains completely legal throughout the United States. No American city has banned gum like Singapore famously did decades ago. Schools might prohibit it during class, but that's policy enforcement, not criminal law. The confusion probably comes from littering rules about spitting gum on sidewalks. Police have zero interest in your chewing habits. Bubble blowing contests, gum snapping, and jaw exercising are all constitutionally protected activities, believe it or not. 89. Street parking in front of your own house is generally allowed unless signs say otherwise. Permit zones vary by neighborhood, but most residential streets welcome curbside parking. The issues arise when you block driveways, fire hydrants, or create traffic hazards. Long-term car storage might annoy neighbors, though it's typically legal. City towing focuses on safety violations and meter violations, not homeowners using public parking spaces. Check local regulations, but your street probably welcomes your vehicle. 90. Basketball hoops become problematic only when they obstruct traffic or sidewalks. Portable hoops are widely accepted in residential areas because they're temporary and movable. Permanent installations might require permits depending on your city's building codes. Neighborhood associations sometimes create their own rules about recreational equipment. The real issue isn't the hoop itself, but noise complaints from late-night games. Most communities embrace outdoor activities. Just be respectful about timing and placement for everyone's safety. 91. Board games on picnic tables are completely welcome in public parks nationwide. Park departments encourage group activities and family gatherings in designated areas. The only legal concern arises if you're gambling for money, which changes the activity from recreation to potentially regulated gaming. Large tournaments might require permits for crowd control and facility usage. Otherwise, Monopoly, Scrabble, and card games are part of healthy park culture. Clean up afterward, and you're golden. 92. Your front yard belongs to you, and that includes your right to express political opinions through yard signs. The First Amendment doesn't stop working just because you're at home. Cities can set reasonable limits on sign size or how long before elections they can go up, but they can't ban them entirely. Homeowners associations are trickier though. They're private contracts you agreed to when buying your house, so they can set stricter rules about political displays. But here's what many people don't realize. Even HOAs can't completely silence political speech during election periods in many states. The key is knowing the difference between public streets, where cities make rules, and private property, where you have more control. 93. Quietly humming your favorite song on public transportation isn't going to land you in legal trouble. Bus drivers care more about safety than your soft rendition of yesterday's hit. The line gets crossed when your personal concert becomes everyone else's problem. Screaming lyrics or drumming on seats falls under disruptive behavior, not artistic expression. Most transit systems have policies about disturbing other passengers, but these focus on volume and aggression, not melody. Then there's the unwritten social contract of shared spaces. Nobody expects absolute silence on a bus, and a little background humming rarely bothers anyone. Just remember that what sounds quiet in your head might be louder to tired commuters. 94. Cleaning out your closet and giving clothes away is perfectly legal, whether you're hosting a free garage sale or just leaving items on the curb with a free sign. No permits required, no tax implications for true gifts. Charity organizations depend on these donations to help others in need. The confusion sometimes comes from cities that regulate garage sales, but those rules target commercial activity and repeat sellers, not genuine decluttering. What's interesting is that many people assume there must be some bureaucratic hurdle to giving things away. There isn't. Your unwanted jacket could be someone else's winter salvation, and the government won't interfere with that basic human kindness. Just make sure items are clean and safe. 95. Most cities don't have laws preventing you from feeding stray cats, though animal control officers might have opinions about it. The real issues arise when feeding creates larger problems like attracting more strays or annoying neighbors who don't want cats in their yards. Some communities worry about overpopulation, which is a legitimate concern. Well-meaning feeders can accidentally make situations worse without proper spay and neuter programs. Local shelters often promote trap-neuter return programs as better alternatives to simple feeding. But here's the thing. Compassion for hungry animals isn't illegal, even if it's not always the most effective long-term solution. The law typically steps in only when feeding becomes a public nuisance or health hazard, not because someone cared about a hungry cat. 96. Putting cash in birthday cards and mailing them isn't against any law, though postal workers and security experts will tell you it's not smart. The risk isn't legal trouble, it's theft or loss during shipping. Cash can't be traced or replaced like checks can be. Banks have ways to track stolen bills, but only if you recorded serial numbers beforehand, which nobody does for birthday money. Electronic transfers are safer and often faster than traditional mail anyway. Then, there's the practical problem of greeting cards feeling obviously thick when they contain bills, making them targets for mail thieves. The Postal Service handles billions of pieces of mail safely, but they can't guarantee what happens to cash along the way. Legal? Yes. Recommended? Not really. 97. Federal law doesn't care what color you paint your house, and most state governments stay out of residential decorating decisions too. The restrictions come from local historic districts trying to preserve neighborhood character and homeowners associations with specific aesthetic goals. Bright purple or neon green houses might annoy neighbors, but they won't bring criminal charges. Property values and community harmony are different concerns than legal compliance. Some cities have learned to stay away from color regulations after losing expensive court battles over free expression rights. Interestingly, the most restrictive areas are often the most expensive neighborhoods where residents agreed to extensive rules in exchange for property value protection. Your house, your choice, unless you voluntarily sign contracts saying otherwise. 98. Electric scooters occupy a weird space in traffic law because they're newer than most regulations. Many cities now allow them on streets, but ban sidewalk riding, which is the opposite of what many users expect. Age restrictions for helmets are common, and rental companies often set stricter rules than local laws require. The biggest legal issues come from parking, not riding. Blocking sidewalks or accessibility ramps with abandoned scooters creates real problems for pedestrians and wheelchair users. Some cities have started impounding improperly parked scooters and fining the rental companies. But riding itself? Usually legal where cars can go with speed limits that match bike rules. The key is understanding that scooter regulations change quickly as cities figure out how to manage this new transportation option. 99. Storing firewood in your backyard isn't against any national law. Most cities treat it like any other yard storage. The real concerns come from fire departments worried about dry wood near houses during wildfire season. Some areas require specific distances from structures. Then, there's the pest issue. Untreated wood can harbor insects that spread to neighboring properties. Check local fire codes, not criminal ones. 100. Washing your car in your own driveway is perfectly legal across America. Water restrictions during droughts might limit when you can do it, but they don't ban it entirely. Environmental rules focus on where the soapy water goes, not whether you're scrubbing your sedan. Commercial car washes face stricter regulations than homeowners. Your neighbors might complain about water usage, but that's a civil matter, not a police issue. 101. Celebrating Diwali, Chinese New Year, or any non-American holiday won't get you arrested. The First Amendment protects cultural expression just as much as political speech. Public schools often encourage multicultural celebrations. You can hang flags from other countries without facing legal consequences. Well, unless your celebration involves blocking traffic or excessive noise, then it becomes a public safety issue, not a cultural one.